I thought that's why Atlanta was trading up to go get him, but no. And so they trade up for a defensive end that kind of had all of us kind of stunned that they needed to trade up for that particular defensive end instead. So yeah, you guys might get your wish now in just a moment. Andrew, how you feeling today?
I'm good. I've recovered from the fallout of the Patriots just buffoonery last night. They have an opportunity to salvage it here today, though. We'll see what they do. But
I just want to know, are you going to get a picture of Sean McVay laughing in the background on your social media? That's all I want to know.
We wasted our time studying him, thinking we could get him at 109. Like that should be like the memoir title of Bill Belichick right there. Like that, he just messes everything. Makes no sense and messes everyone up.
All right, Kevin. Well, I know you want one of these picks to be Malik Willis, but you have, like you said, you have two right now. So what's the other option that you would want them to attack?
Well, they've addressed the offensive line. If they go Malik Willis, their other big weakness is cornerback, which I've got Andrew Booth out of Clemson at the top of my draft board as far as cornerbacks are concerned. If they don't do that, then they got Jakeem Brisker. I believe that's how you pronounce that, out of Penn State. And so I know the Seahawks have been known to, take these names from, the clear blue sky, but they definitely need to address their secondary. So one of these two picks have to be one of those guys.
Well, Booth, that's a name that we've been talking about quite a bit on this show throughout the entire coverage.
I like him a lot. I'm surprised he's not off the board already.
Going back to yesterday, I thought this was somebody that was going to go in the late first round potentially, where he's still sitting out there. And that's what's shocking to me. What do you think? Why is Booth falling, Chris?
I think that one of the questions coming out of his is some of his technique. The guy can be a little stiff, doesn't turn his hips the greatest. Kind of a system fit in some ways, probably a better serve for playing a zone than he is man-to-man. So I think when you're kind of looking at a guy that has some questions, I'm a little surprised some other guys who've gone over him, but Kyler Ward, for example, is a guy who's an athletic freak, a guy who's still has his best potential ahead of him in some ways. Booth, I think, is the guy who a lot of people expected him to be better than he was this year. He's probably kind of suffering from that hype beginning this season and not kind of necessarily matching it. Sometimes it happens to some players. You see that where the guys, become values in a sense because guys hype them. They don't have that great senior season or a great junior year, and then they still are good players. So he could still be a guy who could definitely, recover in the right spot.
I'll say this about Booth and talk about him in Seattle. To me, I had him in my analysis pegged as the perfect cover 3 type of corner. So he definitely would fit what Seattle would like to do. We're still waiting on the official word for this next pick here. After Seattle's done going the next 2 times, comes the Indianapolis Colts. This will be their first pick of the draft. Another team that, frankly, could use a wide receiver on the outside, especially a speedster-type guy. So, Chris, I'm going to go back to you on this one. Is that the direction they should go, or should they look elsewhere?
I'll go to 2 other places. I would love them to take a receiver because they absolutely need it, but I also think they need a tight end. I like McBride. We talked about where he can kind of go. I think he'd be a classic fit for their offense and really be Matt Ryan's kind of best friend as a security blanket. And I'll throw one more out there. My boy's still on the board, Dave Fioli. This team really struggled with the left tackle position in the last couple of years. And this could be a guy who would be that kind of cornerstone. We know that the Colts have built through the offensive line, previous. And this could be a guy I think could just be the kind of icing on the cake if they were actually to take him.
So the Seahawks go pass rusher. Boy Mafe off the board, going with the back of the defensive end. A good pick. This is somebody who I had in the late first round, early second round territories, about where he was going anyway. And he's a solid edge rusher. They do need pass rush amongst many other things as they continue to rebuild. I wonder now though, is it going to be Malik Willis if they decided not to take him here? Not that it matters, he's still on the board, but maybe not if they decide not to get him with the first of their second round picks. I don't know. What do you think, Kevin?
Well, I've got I had him as number 2 on my board as far as defensive lineman. I've got Travis Jones over him, but I don't see that as being a big need for the Seahawks. So that to me is a reach right here. And so I guess I'll be, maybe I'll go yay later on, but right now I am not cheering for this pick at all.
Is anybody going to help out Kevin feel better about this pick?
I think you should, Kevin. I think that, you talked about not necessarily need. Seattle's definitely not had the same kind of pressure up front that they've had when they were actually really one of the legit top defenses. They've got different guys they've thrown out there. They kind of manufacture a pass rush, but they don't have a guy that's kind of the stud. This guy is definitely a hustler. He's going to give it all effort. Definitely going to be a good edge rusher. Now, my question would be, can he stop the run? That's kind of why I would see him as an edge rusher because I don't think he's really good against the run. He's going right at this guy. But in this system, he does fit what kind of Pete Carroll likes. He can kind of line, play that hybrid end / outside linebacker position and kind of be that pass rusher guy. So I do think that's something that he could definitely upgrade. One of the better ways you can help cover is when you get pass rush.
All right, Chris, I'll take your word for that because at least he's somebody I had on my board. So at least we got that going on.
This was
waiting for confirmation, but I think the pick is it. They're not going quarterback. They are going back to running back. They are taking Kenneth Walker. Seattle. So we need all the running backs. We need Rashad Penny. I mean, look, this is clearly in case Chris Carson, or I can't even say in case now. It doesn't really matter if Chris Carson comes back at this point. You just spent a high second-round pick on a running back, and they said, I want Drew Lock and I want Geno Smith, and that's going to be my quarterback competition. Darn it, Pete Carroll and his old man ways. That's fantastic.
Kevin, do we need to send help to your house, man?
Yeah, you might want to send out a couple. I'm shooting at my flare right
Kevin's
now.
Face just
there goes the flare.
At that pick, like, what?
So look, I'm not surprised they went running back here because I thought this was going to be a spot where Breece Hall was going to fall to them after the way the first round rolled out. So I thought they were going to go running. I'm not surprised they went running back, but after they did it, Malik Willis was there. I am more shocked now that they didn't take him with one of those 2 picks.
Well, Malik Willis.
Maybe there's something going on with Malik Willis that none of us realize because no one's taking him.
Bo Callahan is flying down the board. I just think it's interesting going with Ken Walker. I mean, if it wasn't an indication that Seattle was going to be like 75% run before this pick, it definitely is now.
Yeah, 80%.
80, that's right. 80, another notch, another 5%. Look, I want to talk about Kenneth Walker, though, because I had Breece Hall as my number 1, but I actually had Kenneth Walker very closely rated. He's not the same type of guy as a Breece Hall. He's going to have to learn how to pass protect before he gets on the field on a consistent basis. But as far as just pure explosive runners, he was my number 1 guy when it comes to that in this year's draft class. I really love him as a home run hitter. Rashad Penny, there's no guarantee you're going to bring him back after this year. Like I said, Chris Carson, a neck injury, there's no guarantee that he can continue to really play football at the same level. We have to see exactly how he's going to come back. So Kenneth Walker, they're making sure they have their running game going because we know that their quarterback situation is going to be hysterical. Chris, you've been shaking your head this entire time. I gotta get some comments out of you. I
try to defend the bow made for Kevin. Kevin, I don't even know how to rationalize this. Yes, Dan, you're absolutely right. This guy is definitely explosive. A running back that was definitely second on the board in my book too as well. A guy that you doesn't necessarily wouldn't hate going here. It's hate going to Seattle with so many holes in the team that they have. Even if he didn't take Willis, which I think is the reason that they were keeping, that second pick was to kind of see this man able to jump up to go get Willis, and they were kind of keeping it. Can we get some kind of value for this pick if we don't move down? But taking Walker there with all the holes that team has, it just makes no sense to me.
It makes no sense to me either, Chris, because they've got needs at big time at cornerback, and Chris Carson, we knew there was something, with his neck, and maybe he was never going to play again. This pretty much confirms that to me. So,
well, the problem I have is, you also lost Bobby Wagner, so you can use some low linebackers. But
correct,
Dan just kind of hit on the nail on the head for me. This guy's not a third down running back, so you're going to have to platoon him with somebody else. So you're basically just saying we wasted our second round pick with a guy we wasted our first round pick on 2 or 3 years ago with Rashad Penny, and then add that you're probably with DJ Dallas still there. This team, A.J. Pearson at some point, they don't really need a stud running back necessarily for their offense to kind of function running wise. What they needed is a guy that actually could block or tackle people on the other side. So I am really down on this pick for the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Chris. And Andrew, we talked on our show last week about how Atlanta wasn't going to take a quarterback because they're going to punt the next year. Maybe the Seattle Seahawks are doing the exact same thing.
Maybe. I think it's got to be clear at this point. Unless these guys all fall the third round, which maybe that does happen. I got to think this is happening.
See, that's why I thought, like you just said, third round. That's where I thought running back would have been a perfect spot for Seattle to take. Because I think Dameon Pierce would have been a perfect fit in Seattle.
So the Vikings are moving back up. The Colts trade down. The Vikings move in. I'll still be waiting on the details for that trade. I don't have that as of yet, but the Vikings are on the clock. Go ahead, Andrew. Finish your thought.
Yeah, so I was gonna say I think Dameon Pierce would have been a perfect fit for what Seattle needs. And as far as at the running back position, I really want, if they weren't gonna go quarterback here, I would have expected a corner or a Nakobe Dean who's still sitting there to fill that Bobby Wagner role. It just look. I get the defense of the Mafe pick. I can roll with that because it's still a linebacker, it's still somewhat of a need. But this really just makes no sense.
All right, Chris, what did the Vikings just move up to get here?
Before
you answer that, actually, I just want to say as a 49ers fan, I'm happy to watch Seattle implode. Okay, now go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily positive here. I mean, when you look at the board, what they kind of have available, they definitely have needs on both sides of the ball. We talked about maybe upgrading at receiver. Maybe they have a guy in particular that they like. I think defense is still where the Vikings still need to significantly improve. Their secondary is still questionable at best. Their secondary is, they added kind, but Harrison Smith's no spring chicken. They have guys in the linebacker position. They're kind of starting to age out. Anthony Barr is a guy who getting paid a lot of money and isn't necessarily part of their future moving forward. So I think this is where they're going to look for. And Nakobe Dean could be a guy that would really fit a great need for the Vikings. A guy that I think would help transition his defense, to the future. But I'm kind of interested to see what they did trade up for.
So I got it right now. So the Colts traded 42 to the Vikings and their number 122, which is the beginning of the fourth round. The Colts got 53, 77, and 192 in this swap of picks here. So the Minnesota Vikings, there is somebody they have to be targeting because they gave up quite a little bit there to try to move up about 11 spots to get back up to this position.
This does feel like it's either Nakobe Dean's time to come off the board or Andrew Booth here. It feels like one of those playmaking defensive players is what they're going to shoot for here, in my opinion.
So anybody think they could go quarterback here with Kirk Cousins' future kind of questionable for Minnesota going forward?
I mean,
yeah, that same question occurred to me as well. So we'll see here.
It is Andrew Booth comes off the board, so they wanted their guy at the secondary position.
Absolutely okay with this pick. Absolutely okay with it.
We talked about this. We said Booth is a cover 3 type of guy, outside perimeter corner. That's what the Vikings do. They're not going to change. Even though Zimmer's gone, they're not going to be drastically changing the system that their defense runs. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I think it's a good fit. Definitely a team. Patrick Peterson's not an expert chicken either, and a guy they could definitely use upgrades over. So I think this is a good player for them. A guy who's willing to get physical tackle. I think he's going to be a good player for the Vikings. And he doesn't have a whole lot of guys to cover Green Bay, so it'll help him adjust kind of to the NFL as well, or Chicago.
Well, and what we love to hear last year was Justin Jefferson. He went to go against Patrick Peterson all the time in practice. I'll tell you what, if he does the same thing to Booth, Booth's going to have to get a hell of a lot better real fast. So maybe, hey, you know what? Maybe that'll work. Maybe that'll help him out quite a bit doing that in practice. We'll have to find out and see. So the Giants are now going to be on the clock. Andrew, what do you think the Giants want to do? They just traded back twice to get to this position.
Yeah, so I think I want to see who's available left here. I see them going back to the offensive line here possibly, but it feels like it might be a reach because I feel like we kind of, your next offensive lineman up is Raymond down from Central Michigan. So this might be another defensive situation here. I could see them going Ajabo from Michigan at linebacker here.
I like Ajabo quite a bit, and that would surprise me though, just because they just took Thibodeau, that they would go another pass rusher if they were the New York Giants. Though. It would be interesting. You hire Brian Dable and you do nothing but load up on the defensive side of the ball. I'd be kind of curious to see, but there's not a big wide receiver that I'm seeing that I would really like in this situation. Both the top running backs are off the board, so the idea of replacing Saquon Barkley in this draft, I think, kind of comes off here. What are you thinking, Chris? You look like you have an idea in your head. I'm
thinking maybe Travis Jones would be a good fit for them, a team that definitely has struggled against the run. But I'm also thinking Dean would be a good fit for them. This team's, Blake Martinez was injured last year. They were atrocious in the linebacker position when he went down. They couldn't stop anybody that versus the run. So those two guys really, would help solidify that middle for them. And I think when you're the New York Giants, look at the Eagles, you look at the Cowboys, look at teams that kind of want to be, push you around. You're going to need to stop that run. So those two guys make a lot of sense to me.
That's actually a really good call. I do like that. I would like that pick a lot. I want to go back to this Vikings. They trade up with the Colts to take Andrew Booth for a second. Could the Colts not have used an Andrew Booth? I know they have Stephon Gilmore, but they could have really been elite in secondary had they made that pick. That's what I think anyway. What do you think, Kevin?
I have to absolutely agree with that. And who couldn't use somebody like Booth on their team? And so the guys that passed on him, especially in the second round, I think are going to be, they're going to be regretting their decision during the season.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
definitely they could.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Where is he? Because I'm trying to find him on my thing. Wandale Robinson is the pick for the Giants.
Receiver. Sucky.
Slot receiver. They take Kadarius Toney part 2 for the second year in a row. There's only one response I can have.
If they wanted a slot
can you do a
receiver-
double boo? Dan,
I
can
can.
you do a double boo on?
A triple boo here.
If they wanted a slot receiver, why not Sky Moore? Like,
I don't understand this. I'm looking at my
Why
board
slot
right. I don't
receiver,
even see
period?
this dude's
Because
name
he's
on
not
it.
done.
So.
Yes, they talked about wanting to trade Kadarius Toney, but they said like, okay, it's not going to happen before the draft. You still brought back Sterling Shepard. You have slot receivers. Period. The Giants. I just got done giving them all this credit after yesterday, and then they turn around. Did they bring David Gettleman for a pick? They were like, all right, look, part of the deal of you moving on is you have to get one more pick before you're allowed out the door.
Yeah, it's a bit. That one's a shocker right there. That's
the whole board's just like, yeah, don't know what to really make of that. Come on, Chris, what do you think?
I hate it. I mean, I think that you talked about a guy. Guy's definitely explosive. Guy ran a 4.3 in the combine, 5.8. But I think this is where you're going to see Brian Dable kind of show his true colors. People are really excited about his hiring of the Giants. I was not as excited because I don't forget who he was previous to going to Buffalo and Josh Allen kind of finding lightning in a bottle. This guy hasn't been super successful everywhere he's gone. He was at Alabama. He was in New England. And a lot of those places, he liked kind of guys like this and guys that he didn't necessarily like the speed fellow with, but the players didn't necessarily get better. I think he loves the speed and the idea of this guy, but I don't think he's necessarily a great materializer on the field. This doesn't help Daniel Jones get any better. To your point, they already had weapons in place. They had plenty of receivers last year. They couldn't protect anybody. They couldn't throw the ball to the receivers. They couldn't stop anybody on defense. So, yeah, I'm with you where, I mean, they had earned some credit yesterday for what they kind of drafted. Today, they kind of threw it back out the window and, decided to go back to the Gettleman days and previous regimes.
Well, this is the perfect time to do this, Reed. So if you're down on your team's pick, we're trying to cheer you guys up by doing a giveaway with a Jonathan Taylor jersey here. All you got to do is go to Twitter, follow Belly Up Sports, at Belly Up Sports. You have to retweet it. It's tagged at the top as soon as you go to the profile page. Register on Pristine Auction and use the promo code BELLY. That will get you registered into the contest. We're going to select a winner at 8 p.m. on Monday, May 2nd. So we're trying to lift your spirits with a Jonathan Taylor giveaway. So the Browns are finally on the board. This is the team that single-handedly might have ruined the quarterback pay scale moving forward, or at least the way the contract's done anyway, after giving Deshaun Watson a fully guaranteed contract. But with that move, it stands to reason that they have to be involved in a Super Bowl discussion when you have a defense the way they do. They lost Jarvis Landry. They did trade for Amari Cooper. I would think offensive weapons would be the big need here. I don't necessarily have a weapon graded in this spot, but as the Giants just showed me, it might not matter. But what would you guys do if you went with the Browns? Go ahead, Kevin.
Well, I think you got to get some wide receivers out there to help, do some things around Amari Cooper. As he's a great receiver, but he's not 22 years old anymore. So we talked about him earlier. George Pickens out of Georgia. Perhaps we still got Sky Moore, Western Michigan, sitting there. And so one of those two guys, I guess it depends on what if they just like talent, I'm going to go Sky Moore. If they want the pedigree, then it's George Pickens out of Georgia. And so I think you just keep on adding some weapons. So Deshaun Watson steps on the field, and then away they go. If he steps on the field at the first game, which we don't know that yet or not.
That's going to be the big question. Now it looks like the county court, as far as that goes, is kind of going away. So it sounds like he's going to be okay. But we
never do know because Trevor Bauer just got thrown out for 2 whole years. So you just don't know what's going to happen.
That's true. So the Houston Texans just traded up and took the Cleveland Browns pick. So who are the Houston Texans going after? They're trying to get all aggressive here down the second round. They took their tweener corner nickel safety guy in Jalen Pitre in just a couple of picks ago. So if you're the Texans, you've been going defense so far. Who would you just trade up for, Chris?
Who did I trade up for? Isn't who I think they traded up for. I think they traded up for Willis here. I think that they look at their quarterback situation and see how he can help them. And a guy that would be kind of waiting in the wings. They didn't have to overpay for him, but a guy that could kind of give them the hope if Davis Mills doesn't pan out for them.
I'll cut off that thought right now. They went wide receiver. They went with John Mechie from Alabama.
Okay.
I'm going to have to check myself because this, again, I guess you get to this point, it's preference picks by teams. But let's see, I had him about 5, 6, about 7 receivers more down the board before I get to John Mechie. I thought it would be more of a fourth round
Dan,
pick.
I don't have him quite that far. I've got him 4th on my board. So I'm kind of there with you on that one.
He's someone that I honestly thought was going to fall to the Pats in like the 3rd round. So 3rd or 4th round. So that's a little bit of a shocker that he's going right now, and that they traded up for him right there too. That's a bit of a shock too.
Yes, you're going to pair him up with Brandon Cooks, and they said, "The hell with Chris. We believe in Davis Mills, and he needs weapons." Damn it! That's why we have to get John Mechie. Chris, what's your reaction to John Mechie here?
I don't think it's a bad pick. I think they definitely need to go receiver. I mean, other than Brandon Cooks, there's nobody really serviceable to throw the ball to. Their tight ends stink. Their other receivers stink. So you do need some kind of weapons on the outside. I do like this kid. There's other guys that might like him a little bit more than him, but I think he was one of the, he was the guy until James Williams kind of popped off last year. He was the guy to kind of take that next mantle, so to speak, at Alabama receivers. He was getting a lot of touted as one of the top guys going into the draft last year. Going into the year for this draft, I should say. And I look at a guy who can do a little bit of everything. I think he's best in the slot, but I like his route running. As a guy who can be a quarterback's best friend, he gets easy separation. He gets open. He's where he's supposed to be. Has more explosiveness people kind of give him credit for. So I don't think it's a bad pick. I just think that, where the Texans are right now, there's other places they could definitely address, especially the offensive line.
Well, it's the one problem with being the Texans that there's nothing they couldn't address, right?
Sure.
And but to hit on that point,
but I say that because I think there's other receivers that we kind of are all talking about that we might have a little higher or around that same kind of value that you didn't. There's definitely, I think, some drop off after the linemen after these couple guys go.
Well, no, what I was going to say is leading into that point, usually when you need that many things, you want to build from the inside out, not the outside in. And being that there's receivers that are at least, I don't care if this is your preference here, there's at least still guys in the same tier that you could have went with John Mechie later on. And that's I wanted to illustrate your point with that right there. But now we have.
Yeah, I agree, Dan. I would have went with Raymond right here if I was you.
We're going to have the Baltimore Ravens here on the clock. As they are getting on the clock, we have to say goodbye to our panel here with Andrew and Kevin. Thank you guys for coming on. Kevin, where can everybody follow you, and what do you have coming up next, man?
Well, you can see Andrew and I Sunday mornings at 11 Eastern on the Belly Up Fantasy Live Dynasty Edition. And then Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, I am the host with Vince, who was on here earlier, of the Fantasy Live Baseball Show. And I will have an article out. You can be pretty sure about that. Well, you can be real sure on the fantasy side of things. And you can always find me at Twitter at Kevin62, WILSEA. And so just check me out there.
All right, thank you. Andrew, we can get you, man.
Yep, Real Mr. Mallard right here on Twitter. You can also find the golf show Divots and Pivots at Divots and Pivots on Twitter. And as Kevin said, Sunday mornings, the Belly Up Fantasy Live Dynasty Edition at 11 a.m. Eastern on Tiki Live on Belly Up TV. And then also football related, I will be having weekly ranking or bi-weekly rankings for the offseason leading up to all your fantasy drafts. And then once the season starts, I'll be releasing weekly rankings to help you with your start sits. So make sure to check it out.
Excellent, excellent. Guys, thank you so much for coming on. Everybody, we're going to take a quick break, come back on the other side, get our next slate of guests in. Everybody stay tuned to the Belly Up Sports MD's Fantasy Football Show, NFL Draft coverage here on Belly Up TV.
The weather is changing, and there's only one way to keep your drink cool this season. The Belly Up Sports NFL Draft coverage starts now with over 50 different guests over the first 3 rounds, hosted by Dan Mater. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Belly Up Sports' NFL Draft coverage. And Chris Dowhauer, co-host of the MD's Fantasy Football Show and Belly Up Fantasy Live.
Let's go to the pick here. Terrace Marshall finally off the board.
All the NFL fantasy football and pick betting analysis you could ever need through this draft coverage.
So the Detroit Lions are the ones on the clock. They're going to make their pick soon, but the Giants, I'm getting word, just traded with the Miami Dolphins from 40.
It's time for your coverage to start now.
All right, welcome in everybody. The NFL Draft coverage hosted by Belly Up Sports and MD's Fantasy Football Show. We had a bit of a malfunction just a minute ago, but we are back here just to get you caught up in case you're wondering what happened. The Ravens just took David Ojabo. So you guys are going to be able to talk about that because I got to hop off and get everybody else set up for the rest of the night now because of that. So, Chris, take it away, man. I'll be back in a few minutes.
Yeah, guys, we saw actually 2 pass rushers come off the board in the last 2 picks. We saw Ojabo, the guy we talked about going to the Ravens. We saw Pascal go. Do you guys have any comments about these 2 players? Especially Ojabo, a guy who's people liked a lot. Go ahead.
I love Ojabo. I think that is a steal for the Ravens. I think he would have been a first-round pick. What did he hurt himself at the pro day, right?
George ACL, yeah. Pro day.
I know this is, and you notice I got a Michigan Big Ten championship shirt on. I think in 3 years he might be better than Hutchinson. I think his ceiling is really high. I think it's incredibly high. I love this young man. He is a disruptor. He is the perfect Baltimore, like the Ravens do smart things. They understand value, right? In 2023, they're going to have Hamilton popping people all over the secondary, and they're going to have Ojabo killing quarterbacks. They just always do the right thing, the Ravens.
Yeah, I don't think I could say it any better than that. The Ravens have been doing – they may not have done the best by Lamar, but they've done a very, very good job in the trenches on the defense with Hamilton and everything that they've done. That's been really, really powerful for them. Really good drafting.
Yeah, I mean, even with the Hollywood Brown trade, I think they're killing this draft. They're
agreed.
Yes.
No, even with the Brown trade, I know people are going to be pissed. Looking back, you can't say this was a bad draft because you build up the offensive line, you build up the defense. That's what's going to win you a fucking Super Bowl. It's not going to be Hollywood Brown making a catch, especially with Lamar Jackson quarterback.
The only potential downfall of this for the Ravens is if they turned off Lamar completely. That's the only thing. If they pissed off Lamar, then they effed up regardless of if this is a good draft. But it is an A+ draft. Like the players they've gotten and the value they've gotten is incredible.
Yeah,
I'm a big believer. You have to defeat your division opponents first. When you have to deal with Burrow, Deshaun Watson, and if it's Trubisky and or Pickett, how do you stop those? Rush the passer and have a ball-hawking safety. I mean, they're going to attack this division on the defensive side of the field.
Yeah, I think they're going to get back to the Ravens team again. Go ahead.
I also think with the Ojabo pick, he's still learning to play football. He started playing football at 17 years old. He's an athletic freak. He can get after the passer phenomenally. For a guy who's played football for, 4 or 5 years? It's ridiculous. Yeah. I actually love this pick. Jared from the corner booth is telling me that he might be a better player than Aiden Hutchinson. I'm not buying that yet. But if in 3 or 4 years, I might have to eat crow and admit that that's right, because this dude just knows how to play football.
I mean, I'll say this. Hutchinson had a better year. There's no question about it. There were flashes of brilliance with Ojabo, and he hasn't hit his ceiling. That's
talked about that.
That's the difference. High on him. And so you're also now, what's fascinating, Hutchinson was the 2nd pick overall. Ojabu's 45th. I mean, look at the value you're getting there.
Yeah. So after that, we had Joshua Pascal going, edge rusher from Kentucky. Any thoughts about him as a guy that's kind of all over the board? Some people have him going as high as the second round. Some people have him going later in the fourth, fifth round. What is kind of your guys' take on that pick by the Lions?
I think it's a good move. He's 6'3", a little undersized, 6'3", 268. I don't think he's a full-time defensive end or outside linebacker. I think he's probably a 35, maybe 40 down guy. I think he has value. I do like the Wildcats defense. They put a lot of good players in the NFL. If you're not watching the SEC on a regular basis, you might not realize how good Kentucky is as a program, especially on the defensive side of the ball. With Dan Campbell, with what the Lions are trying to do, I think he fits their scheme. And if he can hit his ceiling, I think that's a good pick. Hey, he could be a double-digit sack guy. Could be, 10, 11 sacks in his prime. I like it. I don't think he's a superstar. I think Ajabu has a better ceiling. But this is a nice player for Detroit.
Yeah, I think it's a good fit. To your point there with Dan Campbell and them, I think it's a really good fit. I don't necessarily love the value, but it's a good fit for them.
I also think – go ahead. Oh, Chris, sorry. Nope, this is your show right now. You can talk.
You guys are on a roll, so I'll let you guys kind of go. But I was just going to say, you look at a guy, the Pascal, I think he complements Hutchinson really well. And I think that you also look at it. Trey Flowers was pretty successful in a system similar to that you talked about. He reminds me a lot of Trey Flowers. Is kind of his rushing skill set. He definitely is a guy who's going to probably be a pass rusher initially. Maybe grows into something more than that. But yeah, go ahead, jump in there.
He's a very good piece to add to a winning team. And now Detroit's not a winning team right now, but he's the kind of guy, if another team draft him, go, oh, this guy could be the X factor. You can get after the quarterback. He's a good defensive guy you can rotate in who can help disrupt the game. And Detroit needs guys like that. They need guys who they need everything. Honestly, it's Detroit. They've needed everything for the past 25 years, my entire life. But he's the kind of guy where you can look at and go, yeah, maybe he can't play every down, but the downs that he can play, he will be a difference maker and might make it so they're not drafting in the top 5 every year anymore.
We'll talk about defensive line. We saw the Washington Commanders take Fadarian Mathis from Alabama, the behemoth defensive tackle from Alabama. What is your guys' kind of take on that?
Mathis is a stud. Just flat out. Anyone who says otherwise is wrong. This dude, he doesn't make flashy plays. He's not the traditional Alabama defensive tackle that people think of. He's not a Jonathan Allen. He's not an A'Shawn Robinson. But he is a stud. He can make plays when necessary, and he's continuing the trend of the Washington Commanders just drafting every single member of their front seven from the University of Alabama, and it's worked out pretty well for them on the defensive side of the ball. So I love this pick, actually. I was really hoping – I wasn't hoping he'd go to Alabama.
Well, let me ask you guys real quick on that point. You talked about some of the guys they have drafted from Alabama. This is a lot of draft capital spent on that defensive line, particularly defensive tackle. So this is something maybe we're a little bit overkill where they continue to kind of load up defensive tackle particularly. And then the edge rush is something the NFL always wants to have. You can't have too many of. Defensive tackles aren't necessarily premiums that you have 2, 3, 4 of them. So I'm kind of curious what you guys kind of take on that is.
I think Jonathan Allen's Hitler comments in the offseason probably forced this pick a little bit. Like, oh, yeah, I'd have dinner with Hitler. Like, no, Jonathan, you can't say that. So I think Mathis is – I think that's part of the reason Mathis was picked here, just in case Jonathan Allen says anything else like, yeah, we're not going to re-sign you. You can go away.
Adam, I can't see your head shaking your head there. What do you think, Adam?
I think worst case, this is a guy that has a role that's a little bit different from some of the other guys on this defensive line. This defensive line kind of has a ton of talent, but it underachieved a little bit, especially early last year. But really on the year overall, just kind of based on expectations, given another year for everyone. So I think worst case, this is maybe a little high for someone who's just playing a role. But he's someone who's talented enough who can play a lot more than that, again, if they were to move on from a Jonathan Allen or one of the other players on the interior there. So he's someone who can play a role, kind of like what the Lions just did, has an initial role and the ability to grow into a much bigger one.
I think it fits Ron Rivera, how he wants to put together a defense. If you remember, he's from the Chicago Bear, that 46 tree right? And what does he need? He needs defensive linemen who can attack the pass rusher. They lost Chase Young. You said last year they got off to a slow start. I think if you're going to build your team on the defensive line, you can never have too many defensive linemen, right? You're going to have a rotation and you're going to have injuries. This is a type of player that fits what Rivera wants to do. I don't know how often he's going to be on the field, but hey, injuries open up all the time. He fits what Rivera wants.
You make a great point. You saw that in kind of Carolina. They kept continuing to draft defensive tackles, kind of looking for those two guys to kind of take up as much room as possible in a sense. So absolutely, it seems to definitely a Ron Rivera pick, a guy that he definitely prefers. We have Chicago traded down. They made their pick. What do you guys kind of think about Chicago's pick? I don't have it coming up on my thing yet. Does anybody else have it coming up on theirs yet?
I do.
Jaquan Brisker out of Penn State.
Jaquan Brisker for Penn State, the safety. Yeah, definitely a guy that I think is definitely a starter in the NFL. And then still he's a game changer. We're talking about guys that are kind of pieces or solid players. I think this guy's a solid player. I think he's going to not make any big mistakes. He'll kind of keep things in front of him. I don't think he's going to be a huge impact in the sense that he's going to be a game changer. They have Eddie Jackson that kind of fell off a great deal last year. So they definitely need to kind of address that safety position. Adam, what was your kind of take on that?
Yeah, I think you hit it really well. I mean, it's a good starter, not necessarily the flashiest pick in the world, but a good starter. You pointed out Eddie Jackson, some other guys in the corner or in the defensive backfield, mind you, had a bit of a down year, not as good as it had been because it had been a pretty strong unit, at least for what Chicago had. But yeah, I think it's a solid pick.
As we're waiting for the Saints pick, does anybody think this could be where Willis finally goes?
Look, it's got to be a quarterback here, right? We're a big 49. All the next 5 we all know the next 5 ranked quarterbacks. They're a little different. It seems like this is the place, but right there, Quad doesn't think so. So why do you think he doesn't go there, Quad?
Jameis can see now. He got that LASIK eye surgery. He can see now. He knows where to put the ball. He's not going to get confused by the other team's jerseys. So Jameis can see. That's my big thing. I think the Saints probably will take a quarterback. But also, I do want to talk about that Brisker pick. I hate that pick.
Okay. Go ahead.
I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to get in. I know Eddie Jackson had a down year, but he has proven that he can be a player in this league, an impact player. 1 down year doesn't change that. They're trying to get 2 good safeties to kind of man the top of the field. They just lost Allen Robinson. They need to replace him at the wide receiver position. I know they have Darnell Mooney, who showed that he could be a game changer in the receiving game. That's all they have. I'm sorry. I don't trust Cole Kmet at tight end. I don't trust Byron Pringle. If I could speak, that'd be great. I don't trust Equanimus St. Brown. They need Sky Moore's there. I think they need to take a receiver. They need to develop that offense to give Justin Fields weapons and give him a fucking coach who will help him out. Like, that's the 2 things they need: a coach help him out and offensive weapons.
Well, let me ask you this. Now that I'm back again, Chris, sorry, I'll jump in here real quick.
I missed you, Dan.
What wide receiver is on the board right now that you could definitely take that you can't get in the next round? Because right now, at least as far as my grades go, I got a cluster of about 5 guys that really are about in the same tier, and one of these guys is going to be involved in the 3rd round. They need guys who can get them turnovers, especially in that division. Brisker can help you do that as he's one of the true center fielders left in this draft.
I'm going to comment real quick, and I want to kind of Adam's take on this. Is this a coaching staff that doesn't necessarily value the receiving position? We saw the Colts for year in, year out. As a Colts fan, kind of always had that glaring need, the receiver position. They had T.Y. Hilton and nobody else. Darnell Mooney kind of profiles a lot like T.Y. Hilton in a lot of ways. Is this something maybe they're not looking to necessarily upgrade the receiver position and kind of a coaching decision in a sense?
Well, and to add to that point, the Colts had really valued, especially under Eberflus, having a lot of early to mid-round safeties. There are a lot of safeties around, say, 2 to 4, and Kari Willis, Blackman, a handful of others. That was certainly a priority for them. So I think, yeah, this is definitely an Eberflus touch.
Can I just say, I think this is a very interesting analysis how the Jets are building around Zach Wilson and how the Bears are building around Justin Fields. The Jets are giving Zach Wilson an opportunity to be successful. You know, if he fails, we're going to learn a lot. It's about Zach Wilson. There's no excuses with Elijah Moore, you know, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, a good offensive line, very underrated offensive line.
Sorry to cut you off there, but the pick is in, and it is a corner. Alontae Taylor goes to the Saints, so they go back to the defensive side of the ball. Go ahead, John. Finish your thought there, and you can give me your analysis here on Alontae Taylor.
I mean, normally I like going defense, and I understand why the Bears are doing it. However, if I'm investing in a young quarterback, I have to kind of change how I'm putting together a team to help the young man be successful.
I was going to say real quick, as an ex-Chicago Bears fan, this is why they never have a good quarterback, because exactly what I'm talking about.
It's part of it, right?
Oh, it's absolutely a huge part of it. They figure out a way never to help this guy be successful.
All right, so Alontae Taylor off the board to the Saints. Again, addressing that secondary position. Was this the top guy on your guys' board if this is the direction that they wanted to go? Because I liked Martin Emerson a bit more, but either way, I don't know if I valued a corner in this round that's left. Good, Chris.
Yeah, I think Alontae Taylor's got a lot of skill sets now. I think Emerson's probably more polished, and I think Emerson's more of a guy that could probably tackle right now and be a guy that you can kind of depend on to set the edge. But this guy, I think, has a lot of potential to get better. A guy I think has good ball skills. A speedster at 6 foot tall. I ran a 4.3, I think 4 or below 4.4, I should say. A guy that can definitely has long reach. And I think with Lattimore on the other side, he profiles pretty well with him. The kid they took from Stanford last year. And I think you have 3 corners right now that can really, shut down that division. When you play against Tampa Bay and some of those teams, you want to make sure you can kind of have guys who can cover them. So I don't hate it. Now, I think there's definitely other places the Saints could have definitely upgraded. I don't think they should be done necessarily on their offense, and I don't think it should definitely be done on defensive line. But I do think that this is a guy that's a pretty good corner. I think it's a pick your preference in the sense of some of the corners that are left right now.
Now, Adam, while I was trying to fix things in the background there, I did want to get to you because the Colts seem like they refused to take a draft pick this year, trading back again in the second round. They finally came up. Doesn't seem like they want it to happen. They do come up, I believe, in the next 3-4 picks. So what do you want them to do, man? Or are they just like, whatever, it doesn't matter. They clearly don't want to get better or younger.
I mean, I think you know where my head's at. I still want a receiver. We're getting towards the middle end of the second. I think Alec Pierce is a good fit here. I think it's a good fit for what they need. It's a good fit for Matt Ryan. I think he's going to do very well with a bigger receiver with Pittman, obviously, on the other side. And, I mean, the AFC South is in a really precarious situation, I would say, in that right now it looks like the best 3 receivers or so are Michael Pittman, Brandon Cooks, and and probably Burks right there. I mean, it's a really bad spot. Maybe Christian Kirk. Burks and Christian Kirk take your poison as the 3rd best receiver. So I think that the South is wide open. The defense is already really good, and they need to get one more piece on that offense, and they can actually make a push for the division.
The Patriots do something they don't normally do, and they trade up here. The Chiefs trade out pick, and the Patriots trade in. So now they are on the clock.
Give me Nakobe Dean.
Who's 110 on the board, guys? Who's 110 on the board?
Give me Nakobe Dean.
Who's the Rams 110 on the board? That's what they really want to do. All right, so we know who Kevin wants to see here. John, what do you think the Patriots are trading up here for?
I do think it's defense, and I look at the best player available. It definitely seems like Nakobe Dean is at the top of most boards at this time. Now, I have some questions. It's hard for a 229-pound linebacker, so I'm not sure. But Belichick knows what he's doing. If you're going to be able to find a way to use this young man, despite it would have been nice if he was 240, 245. But I think the value is there. But would they go like a cornerback here? I mean, or a defensive lineman. Belichick loves those linemen, so I'm not sure. But Dean is the highest rated player.
I think the flavor of the month in the NFL right now is those kind of those undersized kind of tweener linebacker, safety, corner combo. Like you had Isaiah Simmons a couple years ago. You have guys who are fast enough and athletic enough. You can drop back into coverage. They can get back. They can get to the quarterback. Nakobe Dean's pretty good at that, but he makes his bread and butter dropping into coverage. He's athletic enough to do it. And our linebacking core, I know the Mac Wilson trade for Chase Winovich adds some youth and some speed to this linebacker core. We need to get younger. We got rid of Dante, or didn't get rid of him. He might retire. Dante Hightower, that dude is a fucking dinosaur. He has a walker on the field every Sunday, and he can't move. We got rid of Kyle Van Noy because he was 31 and making too much money. We need to get some speed in the linebacking core.
Oh, wait, I don't know.
Yeah,
Give me Nakobe Dean, please.
It won't be.
And a playmaker.
Dan's laughing, so it's obviously not. But
I'm waiting for confirmation because I don't. If I say this one and it's not right, then it's gonna be. Oh no, it is. You want to know how low this pick is? Chris doesn't even have a graphic for me to use on this pick. It's Tyquan Thornton, the guy who ran the 4.26 40 from
You're
Baylor,
kidding
the
me!
wide receiver, the guy that everyone thought was nothing more than a special teams player, not 109, who is 709. That's who the Patriots wanted to go with here. And they took a special teams player. They traded up for him in the second round. Nobody
Bill, what
in
the
their
fuck are you doing?
was going to take them here. Nobody at all. Kev, I got your back. Don't worry. I'll hit it again.
Look,
what
I
an
know
awful
the Patriots like special teams. And I'm sorry, Dad, I don't mean to cut you off, but I don't know what the fuck is going on. I know Bill likes special teams. I know Matthew Slater is the greatest gunner in NFL history. Steve Trasker fans argue with a fucking wall. The difference is Matthew Slater was a 6th round pick. A 6th rounder. You do not take a special teams guy in the 2nd round when you need linebackers. You need fucking receivers. You need, for some fucking reason, you need offensive line help because you traded away all of our good offensive linemen and then drafted a guy who was projecting you in the 3rd round in the 1st. I don't know what is going on. Oh, also, you refuse to pay cornerbacks, so you let J.C. Jackson walk to your former offensive coordinator's team in the fucking Raiders. I don't know what is going on in New England, and I know I should expect this every year, but I hate it here.
How about I give you this one? You got Patriot beat writers right now tweeting out saying, like, "Ooh, Mac Jones gets exactly what he needed, a speedy outside wide receiver." Unbelievable.
Look, I like Mac Jones. I love Mac Jones. My name on Twitter is McCorkle Stan account. I have followed this guy from when he was at Alabama. I lost my shit when the Patriots drafted him because I was so happy. But the arm strength concerns are a real thing right now. I'm not saying it's not going to improve. Why are you getting a speed guy who's presumed to be a deep threat when your quarterback has arm strength concerns?
John, you're in the fantasy world like I am. You do all these prospects and are really a great expert when it comes to college prospects and dynasty and draft in general. The draft capital here. Does this mean anything for Tyquan? I had to throw it out there, man, because you know it's going to be a question throughout the offseason. Does the draft capital mean anything for his dynasty value moving forward?
You know what it means? I'm going to get value on John Mechie because people are going to go for Tyquan Thornton, and I'm not going to have one share on any dynasty team. I do not have one share of Tutu Atwell from last year. I did not have one share of John Ross from the Bengals. I will have 0 shares of the Baylor Speedster. And it's not, he might be good. There is no way the Pats had to trade up. What is this pick number? Let me get this. 50. They did not have to trade up to get him. No one, let me repeat, no one was reaching for him here. They could have got him in the 3rd round. Please, this is crazy.
On that lovely note, the Philadelphia Eagles have taken Cam Jurgens, but I have to get you guys off here and get our next slate of guests in. I want to thank you all so much for coming in. John, we'll start with you because you just had the great soundbite there at the end. Where can everybody follow you at? What do you have coming up?
Thank you, my friend. Follow me right there below on Twitter at GridironSkull91, and I will have a post-draft dynasty rankings on footballdiehards.com, and I will guarantee you Thornton is not in the top 36 players on my list.
Kev, where can we follow you? When's the next time your show is going to be coming on, man?
At BellyUpKev on both Twitter and Instagram, and at Quad Tailgate on both Twitter and Instagram. Show's probably coming back in July, but I'm probably going to fucking kill myself before then because the Patriots are abysmal.
Adam, we're going to see you again in just a little bit. So everybody stay tuned to the NFL draft coverage here with Belly Up Sports and the MD's Fantasy Football Show. We'll be back right after this.
Get your party started with the Kong Beer Bong. You get a can cooler for those chilled, laid-back get-togethers, and a built-in beer bong for when things start to get a little wild. It's portable and ready to party no matter where you are in the world. It's perfect for any holiday event. And the party doesn't stop there. They have an assortment of fun party accessories to take your party to the next level. Be the most wanted party animal for any get-together with the Kong Beer Bong. Visit BellyUpSports.com today. Click our Partners tab. All shipments